Kameda, a male student, was seen lowering his head when his teacher asked him sharply about his career goals after he wrote horned beetle on his career survey. The teacher couldn't understand why Kameda would choose horned beetles as his future aspiration. Kameda tried to explain that if he gave a horned beetle to children, it would make them very happy. The teacher then concluded that maybe Kameda wanted to be someone who brings happiness to others. Kameda agreed, but admitted he hadn't found a more specific goal yet. The teacher then suggested that Kameda become a manga artist. She said he could create a manga about horned beetles. According to the teacher, boys like kabuto beetles, and the female character could be a honeybee captured by the antagonist, a grasshopper. So in the story, the horned beetle would be the hero who saves the heroine, the bee. The teacher continued to share more of her imaginative story while Kameda listened, gazing out the window. Later, Kameda's friend, Nanasaki Ikuo, was worried about Kameda after hearing he was called in to discuss his career survey. Nanasaki assumed Kameda must have written something foolish. Kameda denied it. While drinking a canned drink that Nanasaki gave him, Kameda said that after talking with their teacher, he realized he needed to think more seriously about his future career. However, Kameda still had no clear idea of what he wanted to do after graduating from high school, whether to go to college or start working. Naturally, Nanasaki became concerned and urged Kameda to decide on his future soon. Suddenly, a group of students chatting loudly caught their attention. They were also discussing their recent career surveys. Among them was Araki, a student with a guaranteed future, as he planned to take over his family's business. This made Kameda feel envious. Nanasaki reminded Kameda to focus on studying for their final exams. In class, a girl named Tsuneki was sitting on a desk. She and her friends were also talking about their future plans. Not long after, Kameda entered the classroom and walked towards Tsuneki. Tsuneki stretched her arms above her head, and she almost accidentally hit Kameda, who was standing behind her. Surprised, Tsuneki turned around and saw Kameda. Kameda said he wanted to sit down. It turned out that the desk Tsuneki was sitting on was Kameda's. Tsuneki apologized and moved away. She actually knew it was Kameda's desk, but she wanted to tease him. Kameda was shocked and blushed. Tsuneki remarked that Kameda's expression was too honest. Kameda could only sigh as he waited for them to leave. As he looked at his desk, Kameda noticed the faint warmth left from Tsuneki's sitting slowly disappearing. He stared at it intently. When he looked up, he realized another girl was watching him with a disdainful expression, as if she knew what he had just done. Naturally, Kameda was startled and quickly turned his face away, pretending he knew nothing. That night at home, Kameda and his older sister Tomo were playing a board game. Tomo lost the game and thought it was really strange. She stopped playing and got up, then asked Kameda how his final exams were going since their mom had scolded him during midterms for his poor grades. Kameda replied that he had started thinking about his future and for now, he wanted to try harder. Smiling, Tomo said she was ready to help Kameda if he needed it. The next day, Kameda was already in the cafeteria. He noticed how crowded it was and felt confused about where to sit. Then he saw Tsuneki using her VIP seat along with her friends. As Kameda was still deciding where to sit, Tsuneki suddenly waved at him. Tsuneki asked Kameda if it was true that he wanted to become a manga artist. One of Tsuneki's friends mentioned that Ms. Onagata, the teacher, had said Kameda would be perfect as a manga artist. Tsuneki then commented that Ms. Onagata was just guessing since Kameda had never drawn a manga before. Seeing that Tsuneki had been standing for a while, Yuki offered her a seat. After they finished their lunch, Tsuneki jokingly told Kameda that if he ever became a manga artist, his pen name should be Depraved Sensei. This was because Kameda had leered at the seat Tsuneki had just vacated. Kameda was shocked to realize that Tsuneki knew about it. He quickly turned his face away. Yuko and Yuki also chimed in, saying Kameda would make a great erotic manga artist. Kameda, of course, denied it. He explained that he was terrible at literature and always had to ask Ikuo for help. Because they were always together, Yuki and Yuko teased that Kameda and Ikuo might be a couple. Naturally, Kameda denied all of it, asking them not to make baseless accusations. Later in the afternoon at the library, Kameda and Ikuo were seen writing something. Suddenly, Tsuneki appeared and startled them both. She approached Ikuo and asked him to teach her classical literature as well. Tsuneki confessed that she was terrible at classical literature, just like Kameda. She kept pleading with Ikuo, promising to buy him 3 cans of his favorite Cocoa Panda. Kameda tried to signal Ikuo by shaking his head, suggesting that he shouldn't accept the offer. But Tsuneki noticed and gave Kameda a cold look. Reluctantly, Kameda said he didn't mind. Finally, Ikuo agreed to help her. At another time during PE class, two boys were caught spying on the basketball court where Tsuneki and the others were playing. They admired Tsuneki's skills, but suddenly a woman named Sanjaruze caught them in the act and ordered them to leave. The two boys immediately ran away, passing Kemida, who was resting under a tree, while shouting, "I'm gonna ask Tsuneki out and go trekking with her." It turned out that one of them was the president of the hiking club, and Kemida thought he was really obsessed with Tsuneki. Ikuo, who was beside Kemida, asked, "What about you?" Kemida responded that he didn't really like Tsuneki because she always teased him. Ikuo remarked that it was better to be toyed with than hated because if Tsuneki ever hated Kemida, then all the girls in class would eventually become his enemies. Tsuneki was the center of attention in their class, and Kemida felt like he was a completely different species from her. Ikuo stood up and mentioned that he had once seen Tsuneki walking with an older man who had a beard but looked too young to be her father. Ikuo's brother had seen them and assumed they were dating. Kemida then wondered if Tsuneki preferred older men. Recently, Kemida had been studying diligently, both at school and at home. As the final exams approached, he and his friends took them seriously. When the results were announced, Kemida had a surprisingly high rank, making his friends envious. Yukie, who saw the results, was especially annoyed because she ranked lower than Kemida. Just then, a childhood friend of Kemida named Kyuko approached him. She commented that Kemida had become quite popular among the girls. Kemida denied it, saying they were just talking about the exam results. Kyuko then asked Kemida to teach her next time before she walked away. Kemida smiled, saying he hadn't felt this accomplished in a long time, and thanked Ikuo for helping him study. Ikuo then mentioned that soon in the summer, there would be a summer course he planned to attend. He invited Kemida to join him. The course would involve 2 weeks of studying at a hotel in the mountains. Kemida was shocked at the thought of spending 2 weeks there and couldn't give Ikuo a definite answer. He said he just wanted to enjoy his time off for now. Later that afternoon, Kemida, Ikuo, and Araki were seen leaving an arcade. They were talking about someone they couldn't beat. Araki then mentioned that he would be going on a 3-day trip with some part-time workers during the summer. He said he actually wanted to stay home and take care of his rabbits, but the girls in the second-year class said they wouldn't go unless he joined. Ikuo then asked if that meant some of his classmates were going too. Araki tried to recall who would be joining the trip. He mentioned Yukie, Yuko, and Tsuneki. Hearing this, Ikuo and Kemida were surprised and exchanged glances. Kemida couldn't believe they were going on the trip. He wanted to ask Araki more about it, but Ikuo interrupted. Araki then asked if they wanted to join the trip too. Ikuo quickly declined, teasing that Kemida was just jealous because Araki was so popular with the second-year girls. Araki then wanted to play some more and headed back into the arcade. Kemida and Ikuo continued their conversation, wondering why Tsuneki was going on a trip with another guy when she already had a boyfriend. Ikuo just laughed, thinking that if Kemida had told Araki the truth and they ended up not going on the trip, the second-year girls would surely hate Kemida. That evening, while Kemida was walking home, he noticed a new bakery. He decided to buy a cake for his older sister. As he looked towards the door, he saw Tsuneki working there. Kemida also noticed a bearded man approaching her. This might be the guy Ikuo talked about yesterday. Seeing this, Kemida was impressed by Tsuneki, as she always seemed to be a few steps ahead of him. Kemida then called Ikuo and told him about his decision regarding the upcoming summer course. When Kemida got home, he was busy preparing his things for the summer course. Tomo noticed how busy Kemida was. He explained that this summer course was a famous prep course, attracting students from all over the country. This made him a little nervous since he was only going with Ikuo. However, Tomo admired Kemida for being willing to spend his summer vacation studying. Tomo then gave him a pack of mushroom chocolates as a gift. Kemida was very grateful to her. The next day, Kemida took a bus to the hotel where the summer course would be held. At the hotel, some students were already there, amazed that the organizers had rented out an entire hotel for the event. The hotel even had a swimming pool. Upon arriving at the hotel, Kemida was so enthusiastic and excited. Then, by chance, when Kemida looked to the other side of the hotel, his eyes focused on a girl wearing a doTERRA. doTERRA is a type of Japanese clothing, but when he turned to tell Ikuo, the girl was no longer there. Ikuo then mentioned that there were stories about the ghost of an exam participant. Maybe the girl Kemida had just seen was that ghost. Kemida immediately panicked. Then an adult man made an announcement to all the participants to move to the conference room, where they would be given further instructions on how to use the facilities in the schedule. The participants walked towards the conference room. However, one participant was seen trying to leave the room. Unexpectedly, the adult man grabbed the participant's shoulder and dragged him back into the room. Kameda and Ikuo, seeing this, realized that some people had been forced to come here as well. That night, Kameda was curled up in the corner, feeling down because he was in last place for the placement test. He then asked Ikuo about his results. Ikuo was at the top. Kameda was frustrated and felt inferior because he had thought he was on par with everyone else, considering they were all high school students. Since it was late, Kameda then went to his room to sleep. In the room, Kameda continued to beat himself up. He thought that maybe he shouldn't have come here. If he had decided to go to the beach with Tsuneki and the others, they might have become closer. Kameda then fantasized about being at the beach, being fed by Tsuneki, who was wearing a swimsuit. Kameda then slapped his own face, reasserting his determination to study there. With newfound resolve, he opened the window and shouted that he wouldn't give up. Then suddenly, a hand reached out, grabbing the bottom of the window as if trying to hold on and enter the room. Kameda was startled and backed away. From the window, someone began to peek inside. Terrified, Kameda remembered the ghost story Ikuo had mentioned earlier that day. The person then struggled to enter Kamina's room. She crawled towards Kameda, saying she was cold, and asked Kameda to help her. The woman tried to reach for Kameda, who looked very scared in the middle of the room. All Kameda could do was scream. The woman continued moving closer to Kameda. He was still confused and scared. Then, unexpectedly, the woman only grabbed a towel and asked if she could use it. After she raised her head and looked at Kameda, it turned out that she was Tsuneki. Both of them stood there, frozen, staring at each other. The atmosphere soon returned to normal as Tsuneki started drying her wet hair with Kameda's towel. Kameda, still uncertain, asked if she was really Tsuneki and not a ghost. Nonchalantly, Tsuneki stretched out her leg towards Kameda and told him to look at her all he wanted to prove it to himself. While still stretching her leg, Tsuneki asked why Kameda was attending the summer course at that hotel. She assumed Kameda must have made some mistake. Kameda then explained that he was only there because Ikuo had invited him. Surprised, Tsuneki realized that Kameda was there to study. Now Kameda was the one feeling curious, wondering what had happened to Tsuneki to end up in such a situation. Tsuneki responded that she had been kidnapped and taken there by car. Kameda's imagination started to run wild. He then asked who had kidnapped her. With a bit of irritation, Tsuneki revealed that it was none other than her own parents. Tsuneki had been caught working a part-time job, so she was grounded for the entire summer break. When she insisted on going to a group date trip with Yuki and Yuko, her parents were furious and brought her to this hotel in the middle of the woods. Kameda sighed deeply. He had suspected that Tsuneki was lying about going on a vacation with her family. Tsuneki then argued that no girl would easily spill the details of her romantic escapades. Besides, there was no benefit for her in telling Kameda about the specifics of her summer trip. Tsuneki was starting to get a little angry. Kameda then asked if Tsuneki was planning to hike down the mountain dressed like that. Tsuneki confirmed it. She also complained that there wasn't a single bus stop around. Her parents had also confiscated her phone, so she had no choice but to wait for the rain to stop, but then she ran away after being attacked by a wild deer. Without thinking, she immediately climbed in through the window when she saw it was open. Kameda noticed water seeping from Tsuneki's pants, soaking the chair she was sitting on. He just looked at her, feeling a bit perverted. When Tsuneki glanced at Kameda, she suddenly realized and quickly stood up, apologizing for wetting his chair. Kameda also apologized, saying he wasn't thinking anything weird. They both stared at each other in awkward silence until, suddenly, Tsuneki sneezed. Kameda quickly handed her a tissue, suggesting she change her clothes before she caught a cold. Tsuneki thanked Kameda, but unexpectedly, all the clothes she had brought in her bag were also wet. As Tsuneki checked the contents of her bag, Kameda secretly tried to sneak a glance at her chest. He was startled when Tsuneki caught him. In the sudden movement, Kameda twisted his back and winced in pain. He realized it was karma. Since all of Tsuneki's clothes were wet, Kameda had the idea to borrow clothes from the other girls there. Tsuneki then reminded him that if it was late at night and a guy came asking to borrow a girl's clothes, the girl would undoubtedly be terrified. Kameda was left feeling confused. Tsuneki noticed a set of PD clothes piled on the table. She began using her hands to measure Kameda's body and her own, coming to the conclusion that their body sizes were almost the same. She then asked Kameda if she could borrow his PE clothes. Kameda felt awkward, knowing that his PE clothes were still sweaty. But without hesitation, Tsuneki sniffed the clothes and said they didn't smell that bad. Kameda's face turned red. It was the first time a girl had ever sniffed his clothes. He reluctantly allowed Tsuneki to take the clothes. Sumeki thanked Kameda and walked out of his room carrying his PE clothes. Kameda still felt weird watching Sumeki leave his room with his PE uniform. He was staring blankly at her walking down the hallway until he quickly retreated back into his room when two other guys walked by staring at him. Kameda was sitting on the toilet doing his business when suddenly Tsuneki appeared and started sniffing him. Naturally, Kameda was confused, wondering why Tsuneki was doing that. But she didn't answer and continued sniffing him even lower down his body. Kameda screamed, begging her to stop. He woke up suddenly, shocked. It was all just a dream. The next morning, Kameda walked down the hallway, rubbing his head, puzzled about why he had such a weird dream the night before. He entered the classroom but didn't see Tsuneki there. The atmosphere in the class felt very serious, making it hard for Kameda to fit in. A short while later, it was finally break time and Kameda was already in the cafeteria. He had finished eating and told Ikuo that he hadn't slept well last night, explaining what happened. Ikuo was shocked, surprised to hear that Tsuneki had also come to that place. But Kameda was confused to learn that Tsuneki wasn't in Ikuo's class either. Not long after, Tsuneki appeared near them and greeted them. They sat together, joined by another girl named Miko, who had been with Tsuneki in the Save Our Scores class. Apparently, it was just the two of them in that class. Kameda was surprised as he had never heard of a class like that. Tsuneki confidently said it was an exclusive class just for the two of them. Miko explained that she and Tsuneki had been labeled as problematic students and were locked away after yesterday's test. Tsuneki was grateful that Miko was in the class with her. Otherwise, she would have been alone with that old guy with the bamboo sword. Ikuo understood that Tsuneki was talking about the instructor. He also commented that the instructor had quite a distinctive style. Mako chimed in, suggesting that maybe the instructor was a kind-hearted teacher. Tsuneki looked upset as she had been punished with cleaning the women's restroom after being caught trying to escape from the hotel. She then asked Kameda if she could borrow his PE clothes until she finished cleaning the restroom. Kameda's face turned red, surprised that his clothes would be used by Tsuneki to clean the women's restroom. Ikuo found it strange that Kameda's face looked oddly happy. Mako then suggested to Tsuneki that she wash the clothes in a coin laundry. Tsuneki had no idea there was a coin laundry there and immediately started planning another escape attempt once her clothes dried. Tsuneki then asked Kameda to hold out his hand. He did, and Tsuneki handed him 3 pieces of candy. She had noticed him yawning earlier and gave him the candy to help him stay awake during class. Kameda was touched and thanked her. He had been feeling frustrated about his low test scores the day before, but after that moment, he felt motivated to keep pushing until the end. Kameda thought to himself that when the second semester started, he might not be able to have these kinds of conversations with Tsuneki anymore. Later in the Save Our Scores class, Tsuneki and Mako were seen working on problems at the chalkboard under the strict supervision of their grumpy instructor. They studied in the classroom until dusk, after which Tsuneki cleaned the women's restroom by herself. She even got scolded by the instructor for trying to escape earlier. Afterwards, Tsuneki met up with Mako. Seeing how exhausted Tsuneki looked, Mako suggested they take a bath and head to bed early. Tsuneki agreed, but before that, she asked Mako to help her learn how to use the coin laundry. Tsuneki admitted that she had never washed her own clothes at home, as her mom had always done it for her. This was her first time doing laundry on her own, and she thanked Mako for helping her. Mako, on the other hand, felt a bit jealous of Tsuneki, saying that one day she also wanted to do laundry for her boyfriend. Mako had heard rumors that Kameda and Tsuneki were dating. There was also another rumor circulating among the participants that Tsuneki was a slut who walked around in her boyfriend's PE clothes. Hearing that, Tsuneki jokingly pretended that she really was dating Kameda and said he had some weird tastes. She even added that Kameda had been pretty brutal with her the night before. Mako believed everything Tsuneki said. In another place, Kameda was seen selecting a canned drink from a vending machine. Suddenly, he overheard 2 girls gossiping about the slut from Kibudo, who was walking around in PE clothes. They also mentioned that she was cozying up to her boyfriend during lunch in the cafeteria, and they were really annoyed by it. Kameda, hearing this conversation, began to suspect that they were talking about Tsuneki. He quickly hid behind the vending machine. The 2 girls continued bad-mouthing the situation, saying it was distracting them from their studies. One of them even claimed to have seen her coming out of her boyfriend's room soaking wet last night, as if she was showing off after fooling around in his room. The 2 girls kept talking about it while putting coins into the vending machine. Kameda, who couldn't take it anymore, stepped out of his hiding spot. Of course, the 2 girls were shocked and suspicious, thinking that Kameda had been doing something indecent at the vending machine. Kameda then explained that the person they were talking about had actually been chased by a deer and brought to that place against her will. Naturally, the two girls didn't believe him and were confused by his words. Kameda tried again to clarify, saying that he had no kind of romantic relationship with Tsuneki. He had only lent her his PE clothes because she didn't have any spare clothes. Suddenly, Tsuneki appeared in front of them. Still acting strange, she pretended to be a slut and Kameda's girlfriend. With an overly sweet tone, Tsuneki handed back the PE clothes she had borrowed from Kameda. Meiko explained that Tsuneki had washed the clothes for the first time, just for Kameda. Tsuneki continued acting weird, making Kameda wonder if she had hit her head while cleaning the restroom. Tsuneki then said that she had cleaned every drop of Kameda's mess from the PE clothes. Seeing this, the two girls became even more suspicious, assuming that Kameda and Tsuneki had done something inappropriate the night before. Kameda tried to explain the truth and clarify what had really happened, but the girls still didn't believe him and walked away. However, they had forgotten the drinks they ordered from the vending machine. Kameda grabbed them and handed the drinks back to the girls, who became embarrassed and thanked him. Once the girls were out of sight, Kameda approached Tsuneki and asked what had just happened. Tsuneki replied that nothing had happened to her. Kameda then explained that he had tried to clear up the misunderstanding the two girls were talking about. Hearing Kameda's explanation, Meiko finally understood that Tsuneki had just been acting and wasn't really like the rumors had said. Suddenly, Tsuneki grabbed Kameda's hand and told Meiko they'd see each other later. She pulled Kameda along until they reached a room. Tsuneki then handed over the PE clothes she had borrowed. As Kameda took them, he noticed they were still warm, as if they had just been taken off Tsuneki's body. He thanked her for washing them. Kameda also felt confused as to why they had to hide in that room. Tsuneki explained that she didn't want any more strange rumors to spread. Kameda mentioned the rumor about them doing inappropriate things in a room together, which made Tsuneki furious. She said everyone was probably just stressed from too much studying. Tsuneki apologized, admitting she might have gone too far in playing with Meiko's misunderstanding, causing Kameda to end up in trouble because of her. Kameda then asked if it was true that Tsuneki had just washed clothes for the first time. Tsuneki confirmed it. Kameda continued, asking if Tsuneki rarely did housework. Tsuneki said that sometimes she made midnight snacks. Kameda then shared that his older sister occasionally made midnight snacks for him too. Tsuneki said she was pretty confident in her cooking skills. Kameda just smiled at this, which made Tsuneki mad. She wanted to prove her skills. Tsuneki decided to make a midnight snack for Kameda that very night. She would try to make it with whatever ingredients were available. And since there wasn't an apron, she asked to borrow Kameda's PE clothes again. She said it would be dangerous if hot oil splattered on the clothes she was currently wearing. Blushing, Kameda said he'd like to invite Ikuo as well. Tsuneki then left. Kameda found Tsuneki's behavior strange, especially since she seemed so down yesterday. Maybe, no matter the situation, Tsuneki could always enjoy herself. Later that night, Meiko and Tsuneki were in the kitchen preparing food. Meiko mentioned that secretly making a midnight snack was making her heart race. Tsuneki successfully cooked the meal and served it at the dining table. Kameda and the others were ready to eat. Tsuneki proudly said she had made a Spanish omelette, something she learned at work. Luckily, Meiko had a good relationship with the cafeteria lady, so when Meiko asked for permission to make the snack, she was more than happy to oblige. For Kameda, this was the first time he had eaten food made by a girl. Naturally, he felt thrilled, especially since the girl was Tsuneki. Kameda thought that ever since yesterday, unexpected things just kept happening. Everyone there enjoyed the food Tsuneki had prepared. Meiko, Kameda, and Ikuo all praised the meal, saying it was delicious. Tsuneki was happy and relieved to hear their compliments, as this was also her first time cooking for others. Kameda said he was impressed with Tsuneki, admitting he never expected her to have such a skill. This flattered Tsuneki. Meiko then teased that since Tsuneki had washed Kameda's clothes and cooked for him, it was like Kameda already had a wife. Kameda was, of course, shocked to hear this and began choking. But it didn't stop there. Tsuneki, with a mischievous smile, asked Kameda to marry her. This made Kameda choke even harder. Ikuo chimed in, saying Kameda was being overly dramatic, and Tsuneki agreed, adding that this was exactly why she always wanted to tease him. After they finished eating, Kameda stood by the door while Tsuneki washed the dishes they had used. Kameda felt guilty because Tsuneki not only cooked, but was also cleaning up afterward. Tsuneki said it was no big deal since she was used to washing dishes at her job. She then mentioned that she would soon be leaving the hotel. Not only did she not want to stay there, many of her things hadn't been brought along. Kamina then jokingly suggested that Soneki could just wear the outfit that showed off her belly button, as he thought it suited her. Kamina even said he liked seeing Tsumeki's cute belly button. Tsumeki was, of course, surprised and flattered by Kamina's comment, but she also felt that wearing such an outfit would make her look bold and attention-grabbing. Kamina then told her he'd keep lending her his PE clothes, so there was no need for her to run away from the hotel. He said it would be dangerous if she got chased by a deer again like the night before. Tsuneki, however, didn't pay much attention to Kamina's advice. Kamina seemed very concerned about her. Tsuneki then mentioned that because the weather forecast for that night was bad, she decided to stay at the hotel a little longer. Hearing this, Kamina smiled with relief. They then parted ways and headed to their own rooms. Kamina was sitting in class thinking to himself how fast the week had passed since he joined the summer course. He had already started getting used to life at the hotel. Kamina was shocked when suddenly Tsuneki poked him from the side. Of course, the people there glared at Kamina with annoyance as he had disturbed the peace of the class. Tsuneki explained that she and Monhoko had been transferred to this class. Then Tsuneki whispered into Kamina's ear, asking him to help her. Kamina shivered, and when he looked forward, everyone was staring at him with irritated expressions. Some of them were even saying bad things about the two of them. Annoyed, Tsuneki decided to provoke them by starting to take off her gym clothes, claiming that the room was too hot. Naturally, the people there stared at Tsuneki, their faces turning red. Kamina quickly reacted, trying to cover Tsuneki's chest with a book, pretending to ask her to help him solve a problem in it. Seeing this, Tsuneki just gave Kamina a mischievous grin. Time passed, and Kamina was walking around looking at his surroundings. He saw Tsuneki sitting on a bench near the empty swimming pool. Kamina walked up to her, noticing that she looked down. Tsuneki suddenly stomped her foot on the ground, angrily asking if Kamina's class had been like this from the start. Kamina nodded, saying that at first he also felt uncomfortable. With a sigh, Tsuneki said it was incredibly annoying in his class. Kamina suggested that maybe they were just jealous of Tsuneki. But perhaps, he added, everyone who came here only wanted to study hard for their goals. Tsuneki admitted that she felt out of place there, like she was the odd one out. Kamina thought aloud that while Tsuneki could act like she usually did, perhaps she was just too provocative for them to handle. Still, Kamina was confident that Tsuneki would fit in soon enough. And maybe, if they both didn't talk too much, it would help. Hearing this, Tsuneki turned her face away and said she wouldn't talk to Kamina again. Kamina just smiled awkwardly. Tsuneki then asked Kamina again why did he join the summer course. Maybe Kamina had a personal reason. Kamina seemed hesitant to answer. Tsuneki suggested they just head back to class, walking past Kamina, who looked confused. As time passed, Kamina was seen studying diligently in class, also noticing Tsumaki and Moko studying in the same room. Night came and Kamina continued working on problems in his room. Before long, he started to feel hungry. He quickly made himself some instant ramen. As he ate, Kamina remembered Tsuneki's question about why he came to the summer course. Deep down, Kamina couldn't admit that his reason was because Tsuneki had become his motivation to change. Kamina was startled by a loud noise coming from his door. Nervously, he opened it, and to his surprise, Tsuneki was standing there. Naturally, Kamina scolded her, saying she should knock like a normal person. Tsuneki pretended to be a cat, saying she was bored and that's why she came to Kamina's room. Kamina was confused since Tsuneki had said earlier that she wouldn't talk to him anymore. Tsuneki explained that she didn't have a phone at the moment, so she was feeling really bored. As she slipped into the room, she mentioned that if she didn't talk to someone now, she wouldn't be able to shake off the stress from earlier. Once inside Kamina's room, Tsuneki's eyes locked onto a bowl of ramen. Kamina explained that he had just been taking a break eating some ramen. When Tsuneki saw the packaging, it was Oden ramen, and she asked if it was good. Kamina nodded. Tsuneki then said she wanted to try it. Kamina told her it was the only ramen he had left. Tsuneki teased Kamina, saying that's probably why he didn't have a girlfriend, because he should always have extra of everything. Kamina apologized and with a playful idea in mind said that if Tsuneki really wanted to try the ramen, she could drink the leftover broth from what he had already eaten. Kamina thought to himself that there was no way Tsuneki would do that. To his surprise, Tsuneki took the bowl from his hands and drank the leftover broth. Kamina was stunned, staring at her in disbelief. Not only that, but Tsuneki even commented on how strong the kelp and bonito flavors were. She then fed Kamina. All Kamina could do was silently watch Tsuneki, completely shocked by what had just happened. Kamina then said that he wanted to continue studying. Tsuneki put down the ramen bowl and stood next to Kamina to watch him work on his problems. Of course, Kamina felt uncomfortable and couldn't focus. He then asked why Tsuneki didn't go to Moko's room instead. Suneki replied that Moko's door was open and the room was very dark, so it seemed like she was already asleep. Kemita thought that Moko might not be cautious enough, while Suneki suggested that maybe she couldn't handle the air conditioning, so she left the door open to sleep better. Suneki then teased Kemita, saying she wanted to sneak into Moko's room with him. Naturally, Kemita was shocked and his face turned red. Suneki just laughed. Kemita sarcastically commented that while everyone else was studying, Suneki was just messing around. Suneki shrugged it off, saying she didn't compare herself to others. Kemita replied that in that case, he was going to continue studying. Suneki grabbed Kemita's book and said she would study too. She lay down on Kemita's bed while reading, making Kemita's face flush even more as he watched her on his bed. He couldn't believe there was a girl in his room. Trying to shift his focus, Kemita played with his pen and attempted to concentrate on studying. However, he accidentally dropped his pen near the bed, forcing him to reach for it. His mind wandered when he saw Suneki lying on his bed up close. Kemita quickly pulled away when Suneki complained loudly that she was incredibly bored and should be at the beach right now. She kept talking about all the fun things she could be doing if she were on vacation at the beach. Kemita just listened silently. Suneki then mentioned that she would wear a bikini at the beach, saying it would look sexy. Kemita agreed with that thought. Unexpectedly, Suneki suddenly asked Kemita if he wanted to see her in a bikini. Hesitantly, Kemita admitted that he would like to see it. Suneki kept pressing him, asking if he really wanted to see her in a bikini. Kemita figured there was no way Suneki had actually brought a swimsuit. But to his surprise, Suneki had indeed brought one. They were now at a hot spring, and since it was already nighttime, no one else was there except for the two of them. Suneki laughed when she saw Kemita wearing a pareo. Kemita protested, saying he only wore it because Suneki had told him to. Suneki moved closer to Kemita, saying that if he didn't want it, she'd take it off right then. Of course, Kemita objected. He then asked why Suneki chose to come to the men's bath. Kemita thought she didn't mean to go to the hot spring just to show off her swimsuit. Suneki explained that she didn't want to get bitten by mosquitoes in weird places. Kemita suggested she could have shown it in the bathroom in his room, but Suneki didn't want to be stuck in a cramped bathroom with him either. Kemita was completely mesmerized seeing Suneki in her swimsuit. When she asked for his opinion, Kemita told her that it was very provocative. Hearing that, Suneki thanked Kemita for the compliment. Suneki then shared that she actually wanted to get compliments from guys about her new swimsuit. Apparently, her parents thought it was underwear, so they left it in her bag. Kemita, who had been admiring Suneki with both awe and a bit of mischief, was suddenly startled when Suneki invited him to get into the bath. They both ended up soaking in the bath together. They both felt a bit weird wearing swimsuits in the bath. It felt like the same awkwardness they experienced as kids when they accidentally wet their pants. As they were chatting, suddenly, they heard the sound of someone entering and turning on the light. Naturally, they both panicked. Suneki told Kemita she would dive underwater and he needed to figure something out. She took a deep breath and submerged herself to hide. The person who entered was the instructor. Of course, he immediately scolded Kemita for breaking the bath time rules. Kemita, thinking quickly, said that he was waiting because he wanted to chat while bathing with the instructor. But the instructor firmly replied that there were rules for a reason and told Kemita to leave and return to his room. Kemita finally stood up and the instructor was shocked to see him wearing a pareo. The instructor also accidentally noticed something peeking out from behind Kemita's pareo. Kemita then took the initiative and offered to wash the instructor's back. The instructor, now clearly unnerved, made an excuse about needing to finish grading exams and fled the bath. Feeling relieved, Kemita sank back into the water. Suneki emerged from underwater, also breathing a sigh of relief. Naturally, Suneki was curious about how Kemita managed to scare off the instructor. Kemita simply responded that he wasn't sure. Suneki complimented Kemita, saying he was a pretty cool guy. Kemita just smiled slightly, but then he was startled by the sound of someone falling into the water. It was Suneki, who had fainted. Long story short, Kemita was now escorting Suneki to her room. Suneki explained that she just felt a bit dizzy in the bath. Kemita mentioned that it was the first time he had seen someone faint right in front of him, so he couldn't help but worry about her. Suneki, however, was suspicious, thinking Kemita just wanted to see her room. Suneki then offered to let Kemita come inside. Kemita hesitated, saying he wasn't interested in seeing her room. Suneki opened the door and turned on the light, but to their surprise, they saw some underwear hanging up. Suneki quickly turned the light off again. Kemita instinctively turned around and said he'd better head back to his room, assuring her that he didn't see or smell anything. Embarrassed, Suneki suggested they go outside for some fresh air instead. They left the hotel and sat by the edge of the dry swimming pool. Suneki admitted that maybe she went a little overboard today. Suddenly, Suneki got scared, pointing in a direction. Kemita looked and saw a deer. Suneki was afraid the deer would chase her again. Kamina tried to calm her down, pointing out that there was a fence. He even threw a ball toward the deer, causing it to leave. Kamina explained that deer are nocturnal, so it was probably there looking for food. Suneki then walked up to Kamina and said that she felt like she had learned a lot about Kamina during the summer course. However, Kamina replied that he still couldn't fully understand Suneki. Kamina then asked, "Is it that easy for a girl to lie?" Suneki was still confused by the question. Kamina went on to explain that Suneki had lied to him by saying she was going on a family trip, when in reality, she had planned to go on a blind date. Suneki defended herself, saying that it wasn't a lie because maybe she would go on family trips when she has a family in the future. Kamina just sighed. Then hesitantly, Kamina asked if Suneki liked Araki, since Araki was quite a popular guy. Hearing that, Suneki chuckled, thinking Kamina was jealous. But Kamina denied it. Suneki replied that it was a secret, smiling as she said it. Kamina then asked if the chef at the place Suneki worked was her boyfriend. Suneki stayed silent for a moment and then, sounding annoyed, asked when Kamina had gone to her workplace. Kamina answered that he had seen her there after his final school exam, right after playing games at the arcade. Suneki questioned him again, asking if Kamina had leaked the secret about her job. Naturally, Kamina denied it, saying he had no idea what she was talking about. Frustrated, Suneki explained that the school had informed her parents after someone reported it to the discipline committee. Kamina explained that he only saw her talking to the chef. Suneki then clarified that the person Kamina saw was the owner of the shop, not her boyfriend. In fact, he was already married. As the night grew late, Suneki suggested that they head back inside the hotel. The next morning, as the sun shone brightly, the summer course participants were getting ready to leave, loading their belongings onto the buses. Kamina and Ikuo were already seated together on one of the buses. Ikuo mentioned that he felt a bit sad the summer course was over. Kamina, with a neutral expression, replied that a lot had happened during the course. Since that night, Suneki hadn't spoken to him again. Kamina thought that maybe Suneki still suspected him. Ikuo suddenly blurted out that he had forgotten to say goodbye to Moko. He hadn't seen her board the bus or any other bus for that matter. Kamina was confident that Moko must have gotten on one of the other buses. As the bus started moving, Kamina looked out the window and saw Moko standing in one of the hotel rooms watching them leave. Ikuo didn't see her and didn't believe it was Moko. The bus continued to drive away. Inside the hotel, the instructor looked visibly angry. He was upset because someone was always late, just like when they first started the summer course. That person turned out to be Moko. Moko explained that she had rushed to wake up in time to send off the buses. The instructor said that a failing student should stay behind for extra classes and shouldn't bother sending the other students off. Moko was offended by being called a failing student. She insisted that she wanted to go home with everyone else. Moko even mentioned how she intentionally wore a doTERRA while sleeping so she wouldn't catch a cold again during entrance exams. The instructor sternly reminded her that the night air was unhealthy, so she should close the door while sleeping. He added that if Moko didn't pass again this time, his reputation would suffer even more. Moko was furious and said that last year she felt sorry for the instructor because people played tricks on him. That's why she brought him a kendo sword and those sunglasses to use. The instructor didn't expect Moko to say that, and he apologized. He then commented that recently there had been a lot of strange students in high school, which was scary. In fact, just a few days ago at the bathhouse, he was almost ambushed. There was a male student waiting for him when he went to the bathhouse. Moko was surprised and shocked to hear that. Later that afternoon, Suneki went to the shop where she worked. The shop owner mentioned that he thought Suneki had quit her job after her parents came by a few days earlier. Suneki apologized, explaining that she had been caught working without her parents' permission, which made them angry. The shop owner understood and advised Suneki to have a proper conversation with her parents about the situation. Suneki then said she wanted to tell the shop owner something. The owner happily agreed and Suneki smiled. Later that night, in her room, Suneki was on the phone with her friend. She said she felt like she was imprisoned at a remote mountain hotel for a summer course. It turned out she was talking to Yukia. Yukia remarked that what Suneki was going through sounded like something from a TV show. Yukia then asked if there was someone there that Suneki liked, since Suneki was popular wherever she went. Suneki denied it, saying it wasn't fun there because everyone just wanted to study, making the atmosphere gloomy. Hearing Suneki's answer, Yuki said she wasn't very good at lying. Yuki was sure there was someone Suneki liked. Frustrated, Suneki replied that the only person there was some old guy with a kendo sword. Yuki then joked that it would have been more fun if she had come to the beach too. They ended the call and Suneki looked at her phone screen, surprised by the many missed calls she had. She was even more shocked when she noticed something else. On a bright morning, Kamina was walking to school with Tomoe. Tomoe mentioned that Kamina would probably be more popular if his skin were a little more tanned. She was concerned because ever since they returned from the summer course, Kameda had been shutting himself in at home. According to Tomoe, Kameda had wasted his precious summer vacation. He should have gone into the city to hit on a girl or two. Her older sister even said she'd be willing to help him out. Kameda responded with a smile. As Kameda walked, he noticed Tsunaki walking to school with her friend. Her eyes were focused straight ahead, and when Kameda followed her gaze, he saw Araki holding hands with Yukiya. Tsunaki was shocked. She had no idea when Yukiya had gotten close to Araki. She glanced over at Kameda for a moment and then quickened her pace. Seeing this, Kameda assumed that Tsunaki might still be suspicious of him, thinking that he was the one who revealed her secret. Kameda was drinking from a can he got from the vending machine, all while thinking about how Tsunaki seemed to be avoiding him. Then Ikuo showed up, humming to himself, clearly in a good mood. He mentioned how he had just caught up with an old friend after such a long time. Kameda rarely saw Ikuo this happy. Ikuo then asked Kameda if there was a girl he liked. Kameda was caught off guard by the question and quickly said no. As he put more coins into the vending machine, Ikuo remarked how happy he'd be if Kameda had someone he liked. Ikuo grabbed his drink while Kameda looked at him curiously, as it wasn't like Ikuo to act this way. The scene then shifted to the classroom, where Tsunaki was sitting at Kameda's desk, chatting with Yuki-A. Yuki-A was telling her about how she had invited Araki on a trip, so they could spend some time together. Yuki-A shared that they had gotten quite close, but she still hadn't confessed her feelings to Araki. Out of the corner of her eye, Tsunaki noticed Kameda entering the classroom. She got up from Kameda's desk and casually mentioned that if she had a boyfriend, she'd be spending just as much time with him. Kameda overheard part of their conversation. His mind began to wander, imagining what it would be like if Tsunaki were getting close with someone. He sighed, realizing his imagination was running wild, probably because he'd been single for so long. When Kameda pulled out his chair, he noticed a slip of paper. Curious, he picked it up and read what was written. During lunch break, Kameda made his way to school backyard. It turned out Tsunaki had written the note, asking him to meet her there. She wanted to return the PE clothes she had borrowed. After handing them to Kameda, Tsunaki immediately turned to leave. Naturally, Kameda was confused about her behavior. Tsunaki then told Kameda to keep it a secret that they spent time together during the summer course. If Yuki-A found out, things could get awkward. Hearing that, Kameda hung his head. After gathering his courage, Kameda asked if Tsunaki was afraid that a rumor might spread about them being together and Yuki-A might try to steal Araki away from her. Tsunaki denied it, saying that wasn't the reason. Kameda didn't believe her. If it wasn't true, then why not return the PE clothes in class? Kameda also pointed out that Tsunaki had been acting strange ever since they left the hotel pool that time. Blushing and a bit frustrated, Tsunaki replied that she had her reasons. Kameda, now getting emotional himself, asked if Tsunaki was really embarrassed to be seen with him. Tsunaki explained that while talking with Yuki-A about the summer course, Yuki-A asked if Tsunaki had met a nice guy there. Tsunaki thought Yuki-A had a sharp intuition, so she only told her that there were a lot of deer around. Kameda suggested that Tsunaki should have been more upfront like she usually was. Tsunaki responded that she didn't want to make anyone suspicious. She then grabbed the PD clothes back from Kameda's hands, saying that if he didn't want them, she wouldn't give them to him. Annoyed, Kameda shot back, saying he wouldn't take them until Tsunaki explained what was really going on. The two of them remained silent, neither willing to speak. In the midst of the quiet, someone suddenly apologized for interrupting them during what looked like a breakup. Instantly, both Tsunaki and Kameda exclaimed that they weren't breaking up. The person, who turned out to be a girl, was startled and apologized again. Kameda then also apologized for snapping at her. It turned out Kameda knew the girl. She was Kyuko's friend, Kameda's childhood friend. The girl introduced herself as Kamazaki Makoto, a member of the first-year discipline committee. She explained that she was on patrol because recently, many couples have been engaging in inappropriate behavior around the school grounds, especially school backyard and near the storage shed, which have become popular spots for couples. Makoto went on to explain that a lot of students had their first romantic experiences over the summer break, which made the discipline committee very busy once the second semester started. Kameda noticed that Makoto looked exhausted. She then shared how she had actually caught a couple in the rabbit enclosure earlier. However, what they were doing was so extreme that she just ran away without warning them. Makoto also mentioned that before summer break, their committee chair had received a report about a student working a part-time job. Tsunaki immediately reacted, asking if the job was at a Spanish bar. Makoto replied that she wasn't allowed to reveal any details. Tsunaki, however, pressed her, threatening to report Makoto to the chair for neglecting her duties. Feeling the pressure, Makoto admitted that she didn't know the full details but overheard something about a bar. Tsuneki then patted Makoto on the head, walked past her, and invited Kamina to join her. As they left, Makoto reminded them to keep the information she shared a secret, but it seemed like Tsuneki and Kamina weren't listening. At the rabbit enclosure, Araki was cornered by Yuki-e. Araki noticed that Tsuneki and Kamina had arrived. Tsuneki announced that she wanted to talk to Yuki-e. Innocently, Kamina asked what Araki was doing. Araki casually replied that he was playing rabbit with Yuki-e. Yuki-e then added that she was about to feed him a carrot mouth-to-mouth. She glanced at Kamina and Tsuneki and remarked that Tsuneki didn't seem to be picking up on the situation. Araki then said that he had finished cleaning and quickly made his exit. Yuki-e stepped out of the rabbit enclosure and locked it behind her. Tsuneki immediately confronted Yuki-e, asking why she had reported her to the discipline committee. Yuki-e realized she'd been caught. However, Tsuneki also admitted that it was her own fault for working in secret. She just wanted an explanation as to why Yuki-e reported her. Yuki-e confessed that she suspected Araki might be interested in Tsuneki and viewed her as competition. Tsuneki then asked when Yuki-e had found out about her job. Yuki-e explained that she had accidentally seen Tsuneki working while hanging out at a new pastry shop in the next town. Scratching her head, Tsuneki admitted that when she first started the job, that shop hadn't even opened yet, so that's how she got caught. Yuki-e also mentioned that she knew Tsuneki's household had very strict rules, so she reported her to prevent Tsuneki from going on the beach trip with them. During a phone call, Tsuneki mentioned that she had been kidnapped and taken to a hotel in the mountains. Hearing that, Yuki-e couldn't stop laughing. However, it turned out Tsuneki wasn't angry about it at all. She knew that Yuki-e did all of that just to get closer to someone she liked. Tsuneki also said that no one could be a girl in love. Seeing it all, Kamina just stayed quiet and smiled. Tsuneki even encouraged Yuki-e, telling her to go after what she wanted, because those who are bold for love will always win. Both of them smiled and accepted what had happened. Tsuneki explained that she had brought Kamina there too because she had suspected him at first, so Tsuneki wanted Kamina to know the whole truth. Yuki-e then apologized to Kamina for making him seem suspicious of Tsuneki and for making him feel uncomfortable. Kamina said it was fine since he was happy too if Araki ended up getting a human girlfriend. Yuki-e was shocked and confused by his words. Kamina then corrected himself, saying he meant a real girlfriend with an actual body. Tsuneki added that she would support Yuki-e and Araki as well. Yuki-e thanked them both. Later in the afternoon, Tsuneki was at a diner with Kamina, where she had prepared a delicious-looking meal for him. Tsuneki explained that it was her way of apologizing for suspecting Kamina. After tasting it, Kamina was delighted, saying the food was amazing. He then asked when Tsuneki started to suspect Yuki-e. Tsuneki answered that she became suspicious because of Yuki-e's phone. Yuki-e was the only one who didn't call her. Tsuneki had canceled their plans on the day of the event, but Yuki-e didn't reach out, which meant she already knew that Tsuneki wouldn't be there. Plus, Yuki-e had sharp instincts, so if Tsuneki suddenly got close to Kamina, she would definitely figure out they were together during the summer course. Kamina felt relieved, realizing that's why Tsuneki had been distant with him. Kamina also said that Tsuneki was really kind for not wanting to involve him in the situation. Hearing Kamina's compliment made Tsuneki's face turn red and she became flustered. Tsuneki then mentioned how her friends had gone to the beach and came back all grown up. It seemed like Tsuneki was the only one who got left behind. Tsuneki handed back the sports uniform she had borrowed, mentioning that a lot had happened during the summer course. Kamina then reached out his hand and held Tsuneki's. He suggested that they should go to the beach together now. He said that they could grow up too. Tsuneki blushed, completely taken aback by Kamina's words. When they finally arrived at the beach, Tsuneki mentioned how long it had been since she had smelled the ocean air. Tsuneki noticed a dog playing frisbee, and she said she wished she could play with a big dog like that since her parents weren't very fond of animals, even though she loved them. Kamina then showed her a small ball and invited her to play catch with him. Tsuneki recognized the ball that Kamina was showing her. It was the same ball he had thrown to scare off a deer when they were at the hotel pool. Kamina admitted that he had gone to the pool a few times, hoping he might run into Tsuneki again. He had picked up the ball from there during one of those visits. Hearing this, Tsuneki apologized. Kamina reassured her that it was okay because he was the one who had hoped for it. When Kamina was distracted, Tsuneki grabbed the ball from his hands and ran off. She then threw the ball toward Kamina. He was ready to catch it, but a strong gust of wind sent the ball off course and into the sea. Seeing this, Kamina quickly rushed into the water to retrieve it. Tsuneki said that he shouldn't have gone through the trouble of getting it. While holding the ball, Kamina replied that since Tsuneki didn't get the chance to set off fireworks or have a barbecue, They might as well continue playing catch on the beach. However, as he was coming back, Kamina accidentally slipped and fell into the water. Concerned, Tsuneki hurried over to him. Kamina assured her that he was fine, which made her laugh, and Kamina joined in. Tsuneki then thanked him and offered her hand to help him stand up. But instead of getting up, Kamina fell again, pulling Tsuneki into the water with him. Both of them started coughing from swallowing some seawater. Tsuneki complained about her clothes getting soaked. Kamina apologized, saying that it was his fault that she got wet too. When Kamina looked at her, he was shocked and his face turned red. Noticing his reaction, Tsuneki looked down at her chest and realized that because her clothes were wet, Kamina could see her underwear. She quickly turned away, covering her chest with her hands. At first, Tsuneki seemed irritated, but then she smiled and said the whole situation reminded her of the time they were at the hotel bathhouse. Tsuneki shared that lately she had gotten into the habit of bathing while wearing her school uniform. Kamina thought it was a strange thing to do, but Tsuneki defended herself by saying that it felt good. She even told Kamina to try it before making any comments. Kamina said that wearing his own uniform probably wouldn't be much fun. Tsuneki understood and suggested that he should try wearing his older sister's uniform instead. Kamina agreed that it was an interesting idea. Tsuneki teased Kamina, saying that he would really bask in depravity if he took a bath in his sister's uniform. Kamina's face immediately showed a perverted expression as he imagined it. Tsuneki quickly told him not to take it too seriously, explaining that she was only joking. Kamina, realizing it was just a joke, turned to look at her. Reflexively, Tsuneki covered her chest with her hands and called Kamina a pervert. Slightly annoyed, Kamina shot back, saying that Tsuneki was the real pervert. Offended, Tsuneki retorted that she didn't deserve such a label from someone who always looked at her in a lecherous way. Tsuneki walked over to Kamina and playfully pushed him into the water. She leaned over him, her body half pressing against his as he lay in the water. Tsuneki teased him, saying she could tell that Kamina was excited. Kamina quickly denied it, but then Tsuneki surprised him by saying that she herself was feeling excited at that moment. She added that Kamina looked really cool when they were in the school's backyard. Naturally, Kamina was shocked to hear this. He tried to brush it off, saying he couldn't hear her properly because his ears were full of sand. Tsuneki offered to clean them for him, gently placing her fingers over his ears. She gazed at Kamina with a tender, almost affectionate look. The atmosphere between them grew quiet and intense. With a soft smile, Tsuneki called him Beka, idiot, and slowly leaned her face toward his. They shared a kiss in the water. Kamina was still confused about what had just happened, his mouth and ears now sealed. The two stayed like that, locked in the moment for a while. The night finally came, and as Kamina stood leaning against a small hut by the beach, he touched his lips, still thinking about what had just happened. He decided it was time to confess his feelings. Tsuneki came out of the hut, stretching her arms. She mentioned how earlier she was a bit nervous, thinking someone might show up. Kamina started walking towards Tsuneki with a strange look on his face. He said the stars looked especially beautiful tonight. Tsuneki glanced up at the sky and agreed. Kamina closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to gather the courage to confess. But just as he was about to say something, Tsuneki was no longer in front of him. She had already walked toward the beach and casually mentioned that it was her first time. Kamina, surprised, asked, "First time for what?" Tsuneki continued, saying it was her first time spending a night away from home. She started realizing how much her parents cared for her. She admitted that without them, she wouldn't bother cleaning up or doing laundry. It was also the first time someone had eaten a meal she cooked. She confessed that she wasn't confident in her cooking skills, but when she saw Kamina eating her food so enthusiastically, it made her really happy. This gave her the motivation to improve her cooking skills and become more confident. Tsuneki expressed her desire to become a self-reliant woman with her own career. She asked the owner of a restaurant to refer her to a place where she could learn to cook while living there. Kamina asked if this meant she wasn't going to college. Tsuneki confirmed it, saying it was thanks to Kamina that she made up her mind. However, she added that the place was far away, so she wouldn't be able to see Kamina after graduation. Kamina responded by reminding her that they still had a year before graduation. Tsuneki then explained that instead of having someone who made her happy, she preferred to make others happy with her cooking. And as for dating for a year, Tsuneki didn't want to do things halfway, so she suggested that their relationship remain just as it was. Kamina agreed, adding that he believed Tsuneki would make friends wherever she went and that she would undoubtedly succeed. Kamina then suggested that maybe Tsuneki could learn to cook in Kibito, but seeing Kamina's sad expression, Tsuneki tried to cheer him up by telling him how cute he looked. She smiled, and Kamina, unable to hold back his emotions, turned around and tried to hide his tears. He thought to himself that if only he were more mature and had everything in life, things might have been different. Stumeki then said that nowadays it's hard to find a place willing to train amateurs and pay them at the same time. Kamina tried to stay strong and suggested that they could just remain friends. Stumeki smiled and said Kamina would understand. In his heart, Kamina thought that just when they were getting closer, Tsuneki was pulling away. And to think she had once said, "Those who are bold for love will win." Kamina realized how realistic women could be when it came to the real world. Suddenly, Tsuneki grabbed Kamina's hand, spun him around, and kissed him. Kamina was, of course, shocked, and he thought he heard Tsuneki whisper that she would do her best. The scene then shifted to the rabbit pen. Yuki-A was angry because she had to play the role of a baby. She protested, saying she didn't want to keep playing house with the rabbits like that. Yuki-A ran off, leaving the pen behind where Araki remained inside. Holding a brown rabbit, Araki spoke softly to the rabbit, saying it was the only one who could play the role of a mother. In the classroom, Kamina was sitting alone, lost in thought. In his mind, he said to himself that after breaking up with Araki, Yuki-A quickly made up with Tsuneki. Kamina wasn't sure if Araki's fetish had been exposed or not. He had exchanged email addresses with Tsuneki, but he hadn't received a single message from her. At another time, Ikuo was chatting with Kamina while he was studying. Ikuo was impressed because Kamina had also scored high on the second midterm exams. Ikuo seemed confused by Kamina's slightly strange behavior. While working on a math problem, Kamina silently admitted that he hadn't confessed his feelings to Tsuneki that night. Even though Kamina had gotten closer to her during the summer course, the more he approached her, the more Tsuneki seemed to pull away. Now Kamina had also decided on his future career. Then 5 summers later, Kamina was seen washing dishes in a restaurant. The restaurant owner spoke with Kamina, mentioning that he had heard Kamina received an offer from the food industry in the city. According to the restaurant owner, Kamina was one step closer to becoming a registered dietitian nutritionist. Kamina smiled and replied that the road was still long. He promised to let the owner know when he became a full-fledged professional. The restaurant owner then asked if Kamina knew anyone in the restaurant business. Kamina nodded, saying he had a secret reason for wanting to become a registered dietitian nutritionist. The restaurant owner then mentioned that he was going to have a baby soon. Kamina was happy to hear the news and congratulated the owner. The owner said he would be leaving the restaurant more often for a while. Kamina grew anxious, feeling like his cooking still wasn't good enough to serve to customers. The owner reassured him, saying he had already found someone to take over. He explained that the person who would be replacing him had once worked part-time at the restaurant. She had returned from her studies in Spain and was now apparently a specialist in omelet and venison dishes. She would be arriving at the restaurant after lunch. Not long after, someone arrived at the restaurant carrying a suitcase and a backpack. When Kamina saw the person, he was shocked. He couldn't believe that the one who had shown up was Tsuneki. As soon as she arrived, Tsuneki asked with a smile if Kamina was the student working part-time there. Kamina smiled and nodded. They both stood there, staring at each other.